Texas?
Yeah, she was born here.
And is she still with us?
Sadly, no. She was murdered right there in her favorite chair.
Jesus.
Sorry.
Get up out of that chair.
What's going on? We've come on holiday to a Swedish horror film.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2024 dark comedy horror Getaway. The film is directed by Stephen Haas and it stars Nick Frost, who also wrote the film, Ainsley B, Sebastian Croft and Eero Milanoff. Right, the film focuses on a family. We have the father, Nick Frost, the mother, played by Ainsley B, and they have two teenage children. They are heading off to Sweden for their family holiday. They've booked an Airbnb on a Swedish island to kind of go and take part and watch some kind of ritual that they do every year. However, when they get there, they discover that they're about as popular as a farty spacesuit and nobody wants them there at all. Mainly to do with the fact that the English aren't welcome there at all due to the past history of the English. They are, however, resolute and they are allowed to stay on the island in the Airbnb that they've rented. But things go from bad to worse, and it soon turns out that there is something sinister on this island, and they will very soon potentially be fighting for their lives. Right, what are my thoughts on Getaway? Well, this is probably the best way to describe this film without spoiling it. It's a film of two halves, I guess is possibly the best way to describe it. The first half presents this family, this meek, mild family with, two quite outspoken teenagers trying to cope and deal with the terrible welcome that they are being extended by this Swedish community, and kind of determined to carry on and enjoy their holiday sort of thing, despite everything. And then sprinkled into that is lots of suggestion of danger, some deaths here and there that are unexplained, and a real sense that they are in a lot of trouble. And then the second half of the film completely flips the film on its head and gives you something you just don't expect. And I didn't expect it to come. It kind of took me off guard, if you like. And then when the curtain lifted, I was like, oh, this is not what I expected. And then it becomes something else. And that, for me, I don't know if it's the right thing to say it saved the film, but it grabbed my attention, if you like, the second half of the film. And I enjoyed it a lot more than the first half of the film. I think the first half of the film was a little bit generic, and I think it was very clever, actually, the first part of the film, because it was so generic and so kind of tick boxy in a lot of ways. I put my defenses down, if you like, or I just, so that when the flip happens later in the film, I was not expecting it, because the film had cleverly lowered my expectations or put my defences down in the first half of the film. So it's quite clever in that way. If you do manage to figure out what's going on, it possibly will spoil your enjoyment. I don't know. Now, I'm not saying that this is like brilliant or anything. I mean, it's cleverly written, but I mean, I've seen something similar just this past 12 months. I reviewed a film called Lowlifes on the channel, which had a very, very similar concept that, subverts your expectations. And I enjoy films that do that, that subvert your expectations, that kind of show you one thing, present one thing to you as an audience member, and then completely flip it all and give you something else later on. I enjoy that. I like that, and if it manages to surprise me, I'm always impressed, because quite a lot of times I can figure these things out in films. So it's well done in that sense. The horror here is more along the lines of slapstick, I suppose. I don't know if that's the right word, but there is quite a lot of violence in the film, but it's kind of done with a bit of comedy, and you can get that very, very clearly on the trailer if you watch the trailer. You know what I mean? It isn't taking itself seriously, and the comedy is pitched, I think, just right. It's tongue-in-cheek type stuff, almost bordering into sitcom comedy at times with some of the quips and remarks. And another thing it does quite well as well, early on in the film, I'm thinking it felt quite old-fashioned with its approach to things like vegetarian people who are vegetarian and all that kind of stuff. And there's constant jokes and pokes and prods by the family because the teenage son is vegetarian, and I'm thinking that feels very old. You know what I mean? Why would you be doing that? And again, that becomes clear later on when the curtain's lifted. You're kind of like, that's why you were doing it. Okay, fine, I get it now. So yeah, it worked in that sense. But again, I'm not saying that this is like horror film of the year or anything like that. It's much improved over the last horror film I watched with Nick Frost in, the one that he did called Crazy House. That was terrible. That was in my worst films of the year list. This is a marked improvement over that. It works. I think the witty dialogue is on point. You can tell it's written by Nick Frost, if that makes sense. It feels like it's got his sense of humour kind of all over it. It's a fun watch, is what I will say with this one, even though it's not one of those that you'll go away and tell all your mates about and say, I watched this brilliant film last night or anything like that. It's a fun watch, it's made well, it has got some witty dialogue, and it's got a killer twist. If you don't manage to kind of figure out what the twist is. So yeah, I definitely would say this is worth your time. I think there's a few things they could have done to maybe elevate it a little bit more, maybe dial up the horror. But from my perspective, yeah, it was pretty much a job well done, and I enjoyed my time watching it. And that's you can't really say more than that, really. The film was quite enjoyable. So thanks for joining me for this review, guys. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts were on this film, and I will, of course, be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.